What is up, everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team Career Mode, and we're here for round number 14 of Season 6 of our Jaguar Racing career, and it is time for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Now, obviously, there are two Italian races on the grid this year, and in Imola we managed to bag one of our first wins of the season. In fact, it was our second win of the season, I believe, after that win in the rain in Shanghai. We managed to go on to win in Imola as well, so I'm hoping that we can do the double in Italy this year, especially because Ferrari are hitting a pretty decent run of form at the moment with both Verstappen and Perez. They had a difficult time out, of course, in Zandvoort, where we managed to pick up P3 thanks to some chaos that was going around us. But yeah, generally speaking, I'd say that Ferrari are looking fairly decent now with this lineup that they've got in this second half of the season, and so I want to do what I can to spoil their day and hopefully bag a good result here in the Italian Grand Prix. You can see we currently lead the Drivers' Championship by 25 points. We are 81 points ahead of Red Bull in the Constructors' standings as well, so things are starting to look really good for us in this championship as we begin to approach the final few races of the season. We're still, you know, not super close to the end of the season, but you know, it's going to creep up on us quicker than we realise. You know, next up, obviously, we got Singapore, we got Japan coming up, and those races are always ones that, to me, seem like they're towards the end of the season, but actually in reality there's still quite a few races left after those now because of the introduction of races like Qatar and Las Vegas to the calendar, and also Portugal's feature in the F1 23 game, which I do tend to feature in the calendar as well. Most of the races that I cut out from the season have already been cut out. In fact, all of them have. I took out Bahrain, Austria and Hungary, so all of those from this year's calendar have already passed where they would have been, so we're doing every race we possibly can to the end of the season now, and for that reason it's going to be a busy schedule, and we're going to need to deliver week in, week out to make sure we can close this championship in style if possible. Obviously last year I wrapped it up in Portugal. This year I was kind of expecting that maybe I would make it go down to the wire, especially having built such a strong teammate in Charles Leclerc, but he's kind of tailed off a little bit in the last few races, hasn't really delivered in the same way that he was at the beginning of the season, you know, getting those podiums, getting that win in Australia, I believe it was. I think previously I said it was Saudi Arabia, but it's actually Australia that he got that win in. And yeah, we did first practice just then, which obviously you will have seen in the leaderboard, or the I don't know why I call it a leaderboard, it's like a timing screen or something like that. We came 12th. Our pace on the softs is alright, but I still think quali is likely to be a bit of a difficult session for us. We do a 1:17.3 and go fastest on our first flying lap here on these soft compound tyres, but we go out again on a set of soft compound tyres, and surprisingly to me, because I definitely felt like there was more time in that lap, we don't really improve. We actually lose 0.3. The 1:17.7 as our second lap here, and we do make it through, but only in P12, so we're going to need a big improvement in Q2 if we want to make it through to Q3. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc going fastest there. Obviously, he's got some history winning here when he was at Ferrari, and the Ferrari is only 7th and 11th there, so maybe an opportunity for us to win out over them. I accidentally skipped over showing who didn't make it through. It was Norris, De Vries, Stroll, Vesti, and Tsunoda and Joe that didn't make it through. So not too many surprises. Both Alfa Romeos, both Alfa Tauris and Vesti, but Norris may be the only real surprise there in Mercedes. However, this is a rare session, as we set a 1:17.5 on a used set of soft compound tyres. It's a rare session because we actually only have 15 runners in this session, and you might be wondering why that is, and it's because Piastri had a DNF in Q1 that meant that despite the fact he went fastest to go through into Q2, if you don't set or if you don't get back to the pits under your own power in qualifying, you can't then go out again. That's one of the rules there, so that's why Piastri is not taking part. Meanwhile, for us, we were down in P13, but we've improved by 0.2. Across the line, is it good enough to get through to Q3? Yes, it is, in P8. So we make it through to Q3, and here in Monza, that's about as good as I was expecting, really. The pace here is never super strong, so I'm pretty happy with that. Leclerc still P1, 0.4 faster than Ocon in the Red Bull, and it's looking like we're definitely not going to be even really in the hunt for pole position here today, as eliminated in Q2 here is Perez, Fittipaldi, Doohan, Hauger, Pourchaire. Last race's winner, Hauger, of course, now knocked out in Q2. So yeah, a little bit of a surprise there perhaps. And Norris as well actually was on the podium last race as well, so I'm the only podium finisher from the Dutch Grand Prix to make it through to Q3 on this occasion. Such is the nature of Formula 1 at this stage in our career mode, that you know, between races drivers can swing massively in one direction or another. They can be on the podium and then the next race they can not even make it through to Q2. So as we do a 1:17.6 on a used set of soft compound tyres, that was our banker lap. We now will turn our attention towards our final flying lap on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and we'll see what kind of time we can do. Currently down in P10, but we're improving quite a lot. We are only 500 slower than Esteban Ocon so far, and based on the improvement that we're showing, if we can have a good run through Parabolica, I think we might be able to challenge Esteban Ocon to at least sort of get ourselves in and around the top 5. As we go through Parabolica, you can see we've gone a little bit wide here, and we go so wide. I didn't want to take my foot out because I knew I would lose time, and in the end we lost time anyway. We're going to drop down below 4 tenths worth of improvement. It's a 1:17.2, and that will only be good enough to put us P8. We could have been in the mix with Ocon and Leclerc there, but unfortunately we're going to have to settle for just an 8th place finish there.
With qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves of our top 3, Verstappen, Russell and Kevin Magnussen. With qualifying wrapped up, we now have our grid lineup for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race.
Well, as Max Verstappen bags his 2nd pole position in a row, he's going to hope that this race is going to go a little bit better than the last one did for him. Meanwhile, you can see that gap between Magnussen and Leclerc was so small, I feel like I could have got involved in that. But anyway, we now have to turn our attention to the race, and we'll see what we can do in the Italian Grand Prix.
The 3rd permanent circuit built anywhere on Earth. Monza has always been special. Now it's been providing motor racing memories for a century. Welcome to the Italian Grand Prix. The Rettifilo, Ascari, Curva Grande, the Parabolica, names to get you excited. This is Monza, where we are full throttle for 80% of the lap. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Magnussen, Albon, Liam Lawson, Ocon, Leclerc, Robinson, Sargent, Gasly, Perez, Fittipaldi, Doohan, Hauger, Teo Porcher, Oscar Piastri, Vesti, De Vries, Norris, Stroll, Tsunoda and Zhou Guanyu. And now it's time to head down to the track. And Anthony Davidson joins us for this one. And great to have your company. There's no weather to worry about here. What will be going through the drivers' minds as they finish these last-minute preparations?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Okay, we've got that relief of having points on the board finally, so let's keep that form up and get another top 10 finish today, please.
In this season, the name of the game really is just consistency. All the time, consistency is the big thing. Because one thing I've noticed is that there are such wild swings in performance from weekend to weekend between pretty much every driver. You know, I think Leclerc is about the only one who I can actually say consistently makes it through to Q3 along with myself. I think he's only been knocked out in Q2 once or twice this season, which is actually a pretty good innings. And then I'm basically the only other one who's been making it through to Q3 consistently. You know, you look at drivers like Norris, Russell, Verstappen, Piastri, all of these guys who are kind of a little bit involved in the championship fight, I guess. Not super involved. Perez as well. All of these drivers, you know, one race they will be sort of up there fighting for pole position in Q3, and then the next race they'll get knocked out in Q1 or Q2. I mean, Norris is starting down in 19th this race, for Christ's sake. He was on the podium last race. He's one of the only 3 drivers this season to have won more than one race. And now he's down in 19th. So all I have to do is just consistently score a decent chunk of points week in, week out. And this is basically a free championship the way I see it. So we'll see if we can do the same thing again today as the lights come on. and the lights go out, and we've had a good getaway compared to not only our teammate Charles Leclerc, but also to Esteban Ocon, to Liam Lawson and Max Verstappen as well, and we are up into P4 off the start. I do feel a little bit bad for Lawson there. I feel like maybe he got a bit bogged down. We're going to try and go around the outside of Alex Albon now, and we are up into the podium places already, up 5 positions on the start there. Yeah, that was really unfortunate for Lawson, because I don't think he had as bad a start as that looked. I just think Max Verstappen, from pole position no less, had an absolutely shocking start, and he is down into something ridiculous like 7th now as we come under pressure from Alex Albon once again, and back down into P4 off the podium for the time being. Definitely don't seem to have got the tyres heated up on that formation lap, and as a result we are kind of losing ground now to the cars in front. Russell and Magnussen broken away by over 2 seconds to me already at the start of this race, and we are going to have to try and fight our way back, find a bit of form. But Ocon is closing us down. It looks like he might go for a move around the outside into Ascari. Can we hold off the French driver in the Red Bull? It seems like we just about can on this occasion, but I imagine he will come back at us into Parabolica and into the first chicane at the start of lap 2 as well. This has been a decent start for us though, regardless, making up a few positions. Like I said, the aim really this season, for the rest of the season, has just got to be to finish in the top 5 in the majority of the races going forward, and that will probably give us the edge to win the championship, unless someone does finally hit a run of consistency. But it just seems so unlikely based on what we've seen this season. I don't really think I can comfortably point to anyone and say this is somebody who is, you know, definitely going to be involved in the championship fight at the end of the season, as Ocon overtakes us into the first corner. Now we're going to speed things along a little bit. Max Verstappen has made a slight recovery, got back ahead of Gasly, one of his former teammates, of course, all the way back in 2019. They were teammates for half a season, and now Verstappen looking a little bit rapid, like he might want to try and get ahead of me and get himself back up into a position where he can make the Tifosi proud. There will be a lot of people here cheering for him. That's not something you ever would have expected, is it? Max Verstappen being cheered on at the Italian Grand Prix. You think about seasons gone by when him and Perez have both finished on the podium, it's been resounding boos, and now those are the two drivers that they'll be cheering on here in Monza. So it just goes to show how things can change over the course of several seasons. And who knows, maybe we could see some absolutely ridiculous blockbuster moves like that in real life in this silly season. But meanwhile, we're having to settle for being down in P6, but maybe not for long, because this is George Russell battling away with Kevin Magnussen out in front, and he has gone a bit too deep into Ascari chicane, and as a result, he's going to lose out many positions, including to myself. We'll see me getting ahead of him here as he's just parked up on the apex of the corner, waiting to rejoin the circuit. But that has brought out a safety car, because I guess he was deemed too much of a hazard to kind of stay there. He's going to rejoin the track all the way down in something like 21st, I think. So yeah, Russell bottling his chance to get a victory here potentially. Meanwhile, I'm going to go for a bit of a gamble here, I've decided actually, and we're going to go onto a set of hard compound tyres. I had a look before the start of the race, and they said the maximum lifespan of the hard compound tyres is 22 laps. Now, you may be looking at that and going, surely they're going to be dead by the end though. And the thing is, when I did the race strategy practice program, we had a 0.9 times tyre wear factor, so 90% of what the sort of average tyre wear is. That's what we were pulling on a set of medium compound tyres. So I see no reason why it would be any different on a set of hard compound tyres as well. I don't think there's any real argument that you can make that these tyres won't be able to go to the end. I think they'll hold up quite nicely, especially considering we had a couple of laps under the safety car on them as well. So we'll see what we can do as we get ready to go on the restart now. And obviously everybody else is going to be on slightly worn mediums or softs. Not many drivers on the hards here, but a few drivers have chosen to come in, including Perez and Joe behind me. I believe Russell didn't pit actually, but he's just all the way at the back due to that mistake that he made. So we've got to try and clear these guys now as quickly as we possibly can. Get ahead of Russell and Tsunoda up into P12 in the first chicane, and now we can set after all the cars in front as well. We have to just try and do a bit of an overtaking montage here to try and maximise our position, because we want to make sure that our gap to the cars behind once they've all pitted is you know, quite a sizable one, because I imagine they will be closing me down quite a lot towards the end of the race. So it's really just going to be a game of can we maintain that advantage, and that's going to have to start with overtaking these cars a lot quicker than we're doing at the moment. Théo Pourchaire in front of us at the moment. No DRS enabled yet, obviously, because the safety car only came in 1 lap ago, but I think we might try and go for a move on Pourchaire here anyway and dive up the inside into the first corner and make our way around him on the exit of the second corner. We have superior traction in these hard compound tyres. Obviously, these guys have been on the mediums for over 8 laps now, so starting to wear out a little bit, and our hard tyres are really starting to come into their own. And that means that now it is going to turn into a bit of an overtaking montage as we close down on our Season 1 teammate Enzo Fittipaldi, and we're going to just dive around the outside at Ascari to get ahead of him. Meanwhile, there's a bit of a train forming up here, including a couple more of my former teammates. Leclerc heads the field, and there's also Dennis Hauger just behind him, and then Gasly and Sargent also are involved there. So we go for a bit of a dive bomb on, I believe that was Logan Sargent, into the Parabolica, and now we're going to see if we can get ahead of Pierre Gasly sooner rather than later. But actually they've broken away from me a little bit, and it is Sargent who has started to come back at me on the run down into turn 1. But there's 3 cars, they're 3 wide going into the first corner, and surely this isn't going to work out for them. You can see that they're all going so slowly, and that is allowing not only me and Sargent to get back into the fight, but all these cars behind are just getting involved in this fight. I don't know if Leclerc has some kind of issue or something like that, but he seems to be going quite slowly at the moment. So we're going to have to see what we can do to try and get ahead of him as quickly as we possibly can, as well as our former teammate Dennis Hauger. Meanwhile, Gasly has got ahead of Leclerc, and as a result has broken at pace up the road, already gapped Leclerc by 1 second. We're going to try and go around the outside, switch to the inside at the Ascari chicane on Dennis Hauger, but I think he might try and fight us back on the run down into the Parabolica. Actually, I burned a little bit of battery to try and keep him at bay, but it wasn't quite enough on this occasion. Logan Sargent was looking like he might try and get ahead of us, so we almost got involved in a bit of an Aston Martin sandwich there, but in the end we do get ahead. We get the DRS from Leclerc, and we don't have to try and make the overtake because he's come into the pits at the end of lap 10 there, and now we're going to try and set our sights on the cars in front. I think that Lawson is just behind a bit of a battle going on with Magnussen and Verstappen as well for the podium position, so maybe they'll hold each other up a little bit. And we've also managed to close down Pierre Gasly. Going to try and go for a move on him as soon as we possibly can, dummy him to the inside, but actually it ends up not being a dummy, and we just dive up the inside of Pierre Gasly. We have such superior tyre performance here. You can see how quickly we're closing down Lawson and Magnussen as well here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we manage to close them down nice and quickly, especially considering you can see they're still battling away there, the New Zealander and the Dane, the old Zealander perhaps. I don't actually know whether Kevin Magnussen is from that island or whether he's from a different part of Denmark, but that would be quite amusing if that were the case. Anyway, yeah, they've held each other up quite significantly, which has allowed me to get involved into the fight. I have no affiliation with Zealand whatsoever. So we're going to just try and get ahead of them as quickly as possible, and that's going to start with getting ahead of Liam Lawson into Ascari. Once again, having the superior tyre performance has made us absolutely rapid through Ascari compared to these guys. It seems to be a prime overtaking spot for me today, which is not really something I expected. Usually you get most of your overtakes done in the DRS zone on the run down to turn 1. I think we're just about going to stay in Kevin Magnussen's DRS here. 0.9 seconds is the gap between me and him, so hopefully I'll be able to close him down nice and quickly. But actually, him and Verstappen end up coming into the pits, and that allows me to make our way into P3. But maybe Liam Lawson will have something to say about that, as he's going to try and go for the move on me now, but doesn't quite have the pace to get ahead of us, and we're going to hold on to P3 for now. Meanwhile, it's an 8-second gap out in front between Ocon and Albon. Yes, I imagine they will be battling away a little bit as Verstappen goes into the back of Esteban Ocon. As Ocon was entering the pits, Verstappen, he was trying to get round, I think that was Gasly, and as a result he has he's crashed into the back of Ocon, and that has brought out a safety car, and that is yet another instance of Ocon potentially ruining one of Verstappen's races, although in that case I don't think you can really argue that was Ocon's fault. Verstappen shouldn't really have gone for a move like that, seeing that Ocon was there. Maybe he just wasn't paying attention, I don't know, but it's brought out a full safety car, and that, even though we're currently leading the race to Perez and Doohan, who pitted around the same time that we did, what that's actually meant is that we have no choice but to pit again, really. It's completely neutralised the strategy that we were on, because well, you know, the whole strategy was predicated on we have a big gap over the cars behind. So if that gap gets closed due to a safety car, it kind of becomes a bit moot. So we're going to have to pit now and hope that we don't lose too many positions on the pit stop. Norris currently leading the race actually, but I think he's on quite old hard tyres, the same with Piastri as well, and I think it's a similar situation with the Vesti. So in reality, the only drivers here who are ahead of us on, you know, sort of similarly aged tyres are Ocon and Albon. So I think P3 should be on the cards here, because I think Ocon and Albon will probably get ahead of these guys as well. Ocon did have an issue before the pit stop that meant that he was quite slow compared to Albon, as this is Sargent retiring from the race now on lap 17 under the safety car. He actually has a mechanical failure, unlike the retirement with Verstappen. But yeah, the issue for Ocon, I don't know if that is still a thing or not. If it is, then we should be able to get ahead of them nice and easily. But if it's not, then obviously I think he probably will have the edge over us. That said, though, we are on mediums compared to their hards, because these guys all started on mediums and boxed for hards. They've done a one-stop. They had to do a mandatory tyre change. I'd already done it on lap 5. So we've really kind of played a bit of a blinder here on strategy potentially. And I'd say now we could, if we can make these medium tyres work, be considered the favourite to win this race, even though we're all the way down in P6 at the moment. We challenge Esteban Ocon down into turn 1 and we make our way up into P5. Clearing Vesti, Piastri and Norris, realistically, should be quite straightforward. You know, Norris started in P19, Piastri started in P16, Vesti started somewhere in that mix as well. So realistically, they shouldn't be posing much of a threat to my chance of getting ahead of them. It's Albon who my race is with today. He will be clearing these guys quite quickly as well, you would have to imagine. And we're going to just see if we can get ahead of Vesti as quickly as possible. He goes a bit wide onto the curb on the exit of that corner, and as a result we are able to go for a move on Frederick Vesti, but he's going to try and come back at us now, I think. But we do manage to make the overtake on him regardless, as we make our way up into P4 ahead of Vesti. He might come under pressure from the man whose seat he took the place of, Esteban Ocon, as well, because Ocon, of course, has stopped in this race. I think Magnussen could potentially be a threat in this race as well, because I think he was on a similar strategy. Piastri, you can see how worn his tyres are. He has a big moment there through the parabolica, and that allows us to get back ahead of him. But will he try and now close us down with some straight line speed? No DRS at the moment, so it's going to be all predicated on how fast he is in a straight line, and he's not quite close enough on this occasion to go for a dive bomb on us into the first corner. Meanwhile, Norris and Albon battling ahead has allowed me to catch back up to them all the time I lost being behind Vesti and Piastri. We've now closed them down once again, but now I think, given the situation, given that Norris is on far older tyres, the call for Mercedes has to be for Norris to try and hold me up as much as possible and not challenge his teammate too much. But he's not doing a great job of that so far, because he did look for a move on Albon into the chicane there, and we're going to have to try now to get ahead of Norris as quickly as possible, see if we can do it in the DRS zone. No DRS here at the moment, but he does the same thing that Frederick Vesti did on the previous lap, which is going to allow me to initially get ahead, but he's got such superior straight line speed. I don't know if he's going to try and cover me off into Ascari. It doesn't look like it. We're going to try and go around the outside of our compatriot there, and we do manage to do just that. But what that has enabled is Alex Albon to break out of my DRS range, so it's going to be quite hard to get ahead of him now. Meanwhile, there's a big crash here between Pourchaire and Stroll. Pourchaire was retiring from the race, and he swerved straight into the path of Stroll and had absolutely nowhere to go. And that was really frustrating for me, because we were right on the back of Alex Albon on lap 22 when that happened, and that brought out another safety car, which has kind of ruined everything. Every opportunity we had to overtake Albon, we're going to have to wait quite a lot now. And actually, it is even worse than that. There is a red flag coming out, which means that the race is going to be completely neutralised. And not only is my battle going to be with Albon now, it's going to be with basically every car around me. They're going to get a free pit stop here, and we are going to have to work even harder than we were working before if we want to win this thing. And to make matters worse, we're on a dry setup. I banked on the fact that the rain wasn't going to come before the end of the race, and because of this red flag, it now is. So we're going to be restarting on the intermediate tyres. So we're going to have to see what we can do now as the lights come on. and the lights go out as we switch to the replay camera, and we have not had the greatest of getaways in the wet. I never really do. I really struggle to get traction off the line in the wet, and that has allowed Lando Norris to mount a bit of a challenge on me, and he has taken P2 from the start. Lando Norris from P19 on the grid. He has absolutely shithoused his way into P2, and now he might even be looking to go one step further and make his way up into the victory. I would not believe it if Lando Norris goes from P19 to P1 in this race. That would be absolutely sensational from the British driver. Even in a race where, yes, he did get very lucky with the strategy, I still think you have to commend him for being in the right place at the right time. It's not easy to do that. There's a lot of drivers who weren't in the right place at the right time. Alex Albon and myself, we started somewhat high up the grid, and we were in the right place at the right time as well. I would love to say that something else really happened towards the end of this race, because it does feel like a bit of an anticlimax, the fact that I couldn't get involved in this battle between Albon and Norris. But quite frankly, I just didn't have the performance in the wet. We weren't set up for the wet in the slightest. This was a very, very dry setup, which was predicated on the fact that I didn't think that the rain was going to come, because it wasn't sort of slated to come until about sort of 45 minutes into the race or so, which at Monza, it's very rare that you're going to be racing for that amount of time. But due to the number of safety cars, due to the red flag, it did end up coming, of course, and that, as a result, kind of messed up our race a little bit. We were able to hold on to P3 from Piastri over the course of these final few laps. He was getting quite close to us on a few occasions, but I think as we come on the run into the Parabolica now, we should be pretty safe. It's going to be a victory here for Alex Albon. He's just got to drive to the line now, and he's going to lead home a Mercedes 1-2 here, in fact, as we are going to cross the line to take P3.
They made great use of the clear air today then, and didn't allow anyone to exploit the slipstream behind them. What a great win here at Monza. Tell me, Anne, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
Well, they clearly have a car that comes alive in the kind of conditions we were dealing with today. It's a very balanced package in the wet, and what that means is that the drivers have confidence to attack, and having that confidence gets you on the power earlier, it lets you brake later, and can put you a long way up the road.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
So it's actually a Mercedes 1-2 in Ferrari's backyard. That is going to maybe infuriate them even more. Alex Albon, despite his consistent form this season, this is in fact his first win of this season. So yeah, a strong performance from him. Lando Norris completes the 1-2 from 19th on the grid. He might be one of my championship rivals, but I have to respect when someone does something like that. And we have to settle for a second P3 in a row, back-to-back podiums since the summer break, and hopefully we can keep this run of good form going as we make our way into the Singapore Grand Prix next time out.
Robinson increases their championship lead. So let's have a look then at the drivers' standings. So let's discuss, and who would you say is a contender for your driver of the day?
But it's absolutely got to be Alexander Albon, no hesitation. He put in a performance today that's only going to build further upon his already growing reputation.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. The owner drivers team moved to the top of the table. Been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
So we have taken an even greater lead in the driver standings, as Charles Leclerc, I think, failed to score there. So yeah, 40 points is now our lead in the Drivers' Championship. We're leading the Constructors' Championship by almost 100 points as well. So things started to look up for us, even more than they already were. I'm starting to get into that phase of the season where I'm getting quietly confident that this championship is going to go my way, and a performance like this, it could have been the race win if not for that red flag. I think the red flag just kind of completely neutralized any opportunity we had to get the victory here. On lap 22, before that big crash between Stroll and Pourchaire, it was looking like I was going to get ahead of Albon that lap. Would he have maybe got back ahead of me? Who knows? But certainly it would have been a minimum of P2, because there was nobody else in the race who was really looking like they were going to hold a candle to me and Albon. So yeah, a little bit disappointed with the fact that we couldn't get the victory here, but still pleased that we managed to get another podium, another 15 points, and I mean, things just keep getting better and better for us at the moment, so I can't really complain too much. A little word for Frederick Vesti. Rossi, who in this race has scored his first points in Formula 1, only came in a few races ago at the Belgian Grand Prix to replace the departing Ocon, who was Red Bull bound, replacing Sergio Perez, who of course took Jahan Daruvala's seat at Ferrari. Daruvalla moved to the sidelines for now. Will we see him in Formula 1 again? I don't know, because I'm only intending to do one more season after this. Obviously, F1 24 not too far away at this point, only about a month and a half left to go. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a full reveal of the game in the not too distant future. And another thing that I would like to say before I forget is a massive thank you to everyone for 500 subscribers on this channel. That is an absolutely ridiculous amount of people if you actually consider 500 people. You know, that's more friends than most people have on Facebook or something like that. So yeah, it is a pretty remarkable statistic. You know, I've only been doing this for a couple of years, and I've not always been the most consistent due to various issues that have cropped up over the last couple of years while I've been doing it. So the fact that people are coming out here and supporting me, and there's 500 of you who at one point have clicked on the channel and gone, yeah, this guy seems all right, I'll give him a sub. That is a really heartwarming thing for me, and I can't express my gratitude enough. Maybe I'll do something special to celebrate, because there will be a few days that we won't have a video planned before the release of F1 24 if we are only going to do one more season after this one. So maybe we can do some big thing to celebrate 500 subs. Once I reach the watch hours threshold as well, it will enable me to turn on memberships for the channel as well. So if you guys did want to financially support me once that happens, the option will be there, which is something absolutely mind-blowing to me. I never expected that I'd be in a position where potentially I might be able to make money off of this. So yeah, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone for that as well. The support really does mean a lot, and yeah, I'm very grateful. But anyway, moving on from that, next race is going to be the Singapore Grand Prix. I'm looking forward to that one quite a lot, because obviously it was off the calendar last year. We've shown up and down form at the Singapore Grand Prix over the years. At one point we had a race where we looked like we might win it before we had a DNF. Other years we've looked chiefly uncompetitive there, so it really is going to be anyone's guess as to what kind of pace we're going to show there this time around. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.